the Good Shepherd. And we went through a few scriptures that correlated the people of Yahweh to being sheep. And so let's throw a couple of those scriptures out there. Psalms 95, 7 through 11. Read through, says that for he is our Elohim, we are the people of his pasture, the sheep of his hand. We went through Psalm 100, 1 through 5. It says to raise up a shout. Verse 3 says, know that Yahweh, he is Elohim. He has made us and we are his people and the sheep of his pasture. And we dove into John chapter 10 quite a bit, went through that. And we went through kind of how the sheepfold is in particular not necessarily a flock of sheep, but the sheepfold is a place. It's a place where the sheep are kept. So when he speaks of going in and out, and in John 10 and 3 it says the doorkeeper opens for him and the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And why it says his own sheep is because in a sheepfold there can actually be multiple flocks. So it doesn't mean that in the sheepfold is just held one set of flock, but there could be, flocks from different places where those shepherds have found a place, a safe place for their sheep to be overnight while they went out and did whatever. Maybe they were on a journey, on a trip from one place to another. And so at the time of calling, that shepherd would go to that doorkeeper and get entrance into the sheepfold and make the call to his sheep. Now, all the other sheep in there will ignore that call because they don't recognize his voice. But for the ones who recognize his voice, their attention is captured by their shepherd. And so we went through that, and we went through pretty much from verse 1 to verse 30. So we covered a lot of ground. Yahshua is saying that he is the door. He also says that he is the good shepherd. He also says that he is the one who watches the door. He's the doorkeeper. So he is all. He's everything. He's the one that protects. He's the one that leads and guides, and he's also the way. So that's, now you understand when it says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, that no other comes unto the Father but by him. That is when he is operating as the door, And so, and then he also says that in verse 9, he says, John chapter 10, verse 9, I am the door. Whoever enters through me, he shall be saved, and shall go in and shall go out and find pasture. The thief does not come except to steal, to slaughter, and to destroy. I have come that they might possess life, that they might possess it beyond measure. And he says, I am the good shepherd at the beginning of verse 11. And so again, the thief coming in to steal, kill, and destroy is the thief trying to come in another way. Why? Because there's one door into the sheepfold, one door out of the sheepfold, correct? So they have to go in and out of that one door. So we also showed, how that shin, being as in the El Shaddai, Almighty, or as in Shamar, meaning to guard. Yahweh stands guard over his over his people. We talked about what does the enemy come to steal? What does he come to kill? What does he come to destroy? And at the very high level, it was that he is stealing these sheep, right? And he's killing the sheep. But as he kills the sheep, he destroys the flock because he's continuing to do this and continuing to do this. And that's where we need the shamar, the guard, to stand guard. And we talked about how the sheepfold resembled the temple, the tabernacle, and how that tabernacle is in place, and at the door of the sheepfold is the shepherd guarding the flock, or that doorkeeper who has been hired to watch the door and guard the flock. And then we also see in the encamping around the tabernacle that right at that entrance, the east side of the tabernacle would be the high priest, which was Aaron and his sons, along with Moshe. And then you also have the 3 tribes that are set up there. In this case is Zebulun, Issachar, and none other than Judah. So right there at the door guarding the way, you have the priest and the king. You have the priest and the king. So you have the gatekeeper in Yahshua. He's perfectly positioned to protect the sheep inside of the sheepfold. And so, just seeing there the shin and the lion of Judah standing at the door, protecting the door. And so now that gets us into part 2. Sheep of His Pasture, the Good Shepherd, part 2. Because part of this is understanding a little bit more about the sheep and a little bit more about the not so good shepherd. Because Yahshua describes himself as the Good Shepherd. So I want to look a little bit into that in today's lesson. And so we'll start just by examining a little bit more about the sheep. There's a couple interesting facts, and this one I put up here. I got this from sheep101.info, and it's a website that has a whole bunch of information, just everything about sheep. It has sheep 101, sheep 201, and it's just a lot of information about sheep and keeping sheep. But I found this one very, very interesting. And this is the Icelandic leader sheep. And the Icelandic leader sheep is a separate line within the Icelandic breed of sheep. As the name implies, these sheep were leaders in their flocks. The leadership ability runs in bloodlines, and it is equally in males and females. Sheep of this strain have the ability or instinct to run in front of the flock when it is driven home from the mountain pastures in autumn, from the sheep sheds to the winter pasture in the morning, and back home in the evening, through heavy snowdrifts, over ice-covered ground, or across rivers. Sometimes the leaders would take the whole flock of grazing sheep on winter pasture back to the farm early in the day if a blizzard was on its way. So from amongst the sheep, there's a strand of leader sheep that it is their instinct to lead. Just like Yahweh says, who is for Yahweh? What happened? The Levites stood up. They stood up from among their brothers. And then what were they given? They were given a charge. And Yahweh had them to stand before him and the children of Israel. And it says that they waved the Levites before Yahweh. And that a charge was put to them to lead Israel in the ways of righteousness, into green pastures, into places that they should go, and away from places that they should not. that leadership was put upon Israel, upon Levi, even outside, taken up out of Israel. So I thought that was interesting. Yet another characteristic, and a couple other things just about sheep that I learned. You know, we tend to think that because they are so, I'll use the word chill, you know, that they're dumb, they're not intelligent, but they're actually very intelligent animals. One story I saw was where they put this certain type of stuff on the ground to stop the sheep from getting over to where the gardening and stuff is, and so the sheep's hooves they can't walk on it, so you know they'll just kind of slide around. So what they would do is lay down on their back and just roll till they get over there. It just roll till they get there. So you know they're and what they know is that there's strength in their numbers. What they know is they stay together because apart they have no defense. Isn't that how Yahweh wants Israel to be? Stay together, that because apart we have no defense. And so he wants that flock community. That's why I always say, you know, there's something great about Torah, that it addresses a people, not a person. We as individuals do our part in walking it out. But the truth is, it's addressed to Israel as a people. And then he says, if you are not Israel, but you want to take part in the blessings of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and what he has proclaimed for his people, then what does he say? Walk out this Torah. He says there's one law for the native born and for the stranger alike. One. In other words, there is no adoption sons get this set of rules and sons get this set of rules. Doesn't work that way. Because it's about community. And he's teaching us that lesson in calling us sheep, in that we have to exist as a community. Not as one, not as individuals, but as Israel. So let's look at a few scriptures. We're going to start with Matthew. Matthew chapter 9. Matthew 9, verse 35 and 36. And the reason Yahshua went about all the cities and villages, teaching in their congregations and proclaiming the good news of the reign, and healing every disease and every bodily weakness among the people. And having seen the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were weary and scattered as sheep having no shepherd. Let's paint this picture. Let's get this image in our heads. That Yahshua is going around addressing the people, teaching them, healing them, doing these miracles, doing these things. And it says that he looks at them with compassion because they're weary and they're scattered every which way, every wind and doctrine. Does this begin to sound familiar? Y'all know, I don't care what religious affiliation it is, it's going to be some black folk dabbling in it. I don't care how far it is from where they grew up. It's that one set of people that when they walk in a particular place of worship, who's the black people? Oh man. So this scattering, right? And that weariness. I can imagine him just seeing that they are just beaten down. They're tired. And they're scattered because the wind's blowing and they're just going in any which direction. Why? Because the shepherd. Where is the shepherd? Where is the leadership?
Yeah.
The one that's to stand up and say, guys, we're in the wrong direction. I can't even hear the shepherd's voice anymore. Let's go. Saying that this is not happening. So keep that picture painted in your head. Now we're going to read Ezekiel chapter 34. We're going to read the whole chapter. I know we read this just a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
But I want to read through this entire chapter, and we'll kind of pause as we go, so we can kind of try to get the context of what's going on. So we won't read continuously, but we will read the whole chapter. Again, keep in mind what Yahshua saw. He saw people scattered, people weary. And keep in mind what he was doing. He was teaching them, and he was healing them. Right? So let's begin reading Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 1. And the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, Thus said the Master Yahweh to the shepherds, Woe to the shepherds of Israel, who have been feeding themselves. Should not the shepherds feed the flock? How often do we see one of the most staggering pieces of information I've ever seen was somebody broke down the average household income for Creflo Dollar's congregation. And I, just kind of assume, I'm like, oh, well, all of the rich Atlanta people or Georgia people, from the area around Atlanta and College Park and all of that, all of the rich people go there. And the average salary is like $30-something thousand. And here this dude is living in multi-million-dollar home, flying in a jet, raking in millions of dollars a year. Aren't you supposed to be feeding the flock?
Exactly.
Feeding yourself. Verse 3, you eat the fat and you put on the wool. You slaughter the fatling. You do not feed the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, nor have you healed the sick, nor bound up the broken, nor brought back the strayed, nor sought what was lost. But you have ruled them with might and with harshness. Remember what Yahshua was doing. He was healing. He was teaching, right? He was making people whole. That's what that shepherd is supposed to do. When a sheep falls and gets hurt, that shepherd tends to that sheep. When that sheep has maybe a predator has gotten hold of a sheep, and that shepherd is supposed to come to that sheep's rescue. And once he has rescued that sheep, he's supposed to get him nursed back to health. This is what he's supposed to be doing. This is what Yahshua was doing. Verse 5, and they were scattered because there was no shepherd, and they became food for all the beasts of the field when they were scattered. My sheep wandered through all the mountains and on every high hill. Realize why he says particularly high hill, because that is the place, it always represents the place where idol worship is done. So this is the stuff that's going on. So now they're wandering. Remember, Yahshua said they're scattered. You know, every wind and doctrine, on every high hill. You know, verse 6 still. And my sheep were scattered over all the face of the earth, and no one was seeking or searching for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of Yahweh. As I live, declares the Master Yahweh, because my flock became a prey, and my flock became food for every beast of the field, from not having a shepherd, and my shepherds did not search for my flock, but the shepherds fed themselves, and did not feed my flock. Therefore, O shepherds, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said the Master Yahweh, see, I am against the shepherds, and shall require my flock at their hand, and shall make them cease feeding the sheep, and the shepherds shall feed themselves no more. And I shall deliver my flock from their mouths, and they shall no longer be food for them. For thus said the Master Yahweh, see, I myself shall search for my sheep and seek them out. Was that not what Yahweh was doing? Now this is clearly before he comes in the form of Yahshua. But what is Yahshua doing? He is searching out. Right? He's searching out his sheep. Verse 12. As a shepherd seeks out his flock on the day he is among his scattered sheep, so I shall seek out my sheep and deliver them from all the places where they were scattered in a day of cloud and thick darkness. And I shall bring them out from the peoples and gather them from the lands, and shall bring them to their own land. And I shall feed them on the mountains of Israel, in the valleys, and in all the dwellings of the land. All the dwellings of the land. Verse 14. In good pasture I shall feed them, and their folds shall be on the high mountains of Israel. They shall lie there in a good fold, and feed in rich pasture on the mountains of Israel. I shall feed my flock and make them lie down, because the Master Yahweh declares the Master Yahweh. I shall seek out the lost and bring back the strayed, and I shall bind up the broken and strengthen that was sick, what was sick. But the fat and the strong I shall destroy. I shall feed them with right ruling. Feed them with right ruling. And as for you, O my flock, thus said the Master Yahweh, see, I am judging between sheep and sheep, between rams and goats. It is not enough for you to have eaten up the good pasture, and the rest of your pasture you trample with your feet, or that you should drink of the clear waters, and the rest you muddy with your feet. Think about what he's saying there. You muddy the waters with your feet. You drank of clear waters. So, you know, I hate hearing people say that, oh, well, somebody can't handle truth. So that's the reason I'm feeding them these falsehoods and this lawlessness. And they can't handle it. Well, right there, you're eating of good pasture and trampling the rest with your feet. You drink of clear waters and you muddy. And when I see that feet, I think about what? Walking. You muddy with your feet. And so often we see that happening. Where, and I'm telling y'all, there's so many people who are desiring truth and tired, weary, know that this is not right. Can't be right. But the waters are muddy. The waters are muddy, so people are confused. Verse 19. And as for my flock, they eat what you have trampled with your feet, and they drink what you have muddied with your feet, with your walk. Therefore, thus said the Master Yahweh to them, see, I myself shall judge between fat and lean sheep, between you, because you have pushed the flank and shoulder and thrust at all the weak ones with your horns and scattered them abroad. Therefore I shall save my flock and let them no longer be a prey. And I shall judge between sheep and sheep. And I shall raise up over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he shall feed them. He shall feed them and be their shepherd. And I, Yahweh, shall be their Elohim. And my servant David, a prince in their midst, I, Yahweh, have spoken. Verse 25. And I shall make a covenant of peace with them, and make evil be ceased from the land. And they shall dwell safely in the wilderness and sleep in the forest. That covenant of peace. That covenant of peace we know is not now, because there is definitely not wholeness and completeness and rest. There's not that. There's not shalom.
Right.
And so this covenant of peace is to come. But once it comes, it's an everlasting covenant. And so let's go now to verse 26. And I shall make them and the places all around them, my hill, a blessing, and shall cause showers to come down in their season. Showers of blessings they are. And the trees of the field shall yield their fruit, and the earth yield her increase, and they shall be safe in their land, in their land,
Yes.
in their land.
Yes.
And they shall know that I am Yahweh when I have broken the bars of their yoke, and I shall deliver them from the land of those who enslaved them. And they shall no longer be a prey for the nations, and the beast of the earth shall not devour them. And they shall dwell safely with no one to make them afraid. And I shall raise up for them a planting place of name. And they shall no longer be consumed by hunger in the land, nor bear the shame of the nations anymore. And they shall know that I, Yahweh, their Elohim, am with them, and that they, the house of Israel, are my people. Look at how he stopped to define who he's talking about. I, Yahweh, my people, Israel, declares the Master Yahweh. Verse 31, and you, my flock, the flock of my pasture, are men. And I am your Elohim, declares the Master Yahweh. Just in case you didn't know what he's talking about. He's talking about Israel.
Hallelujah.
Israel. Let's go to Jeremiah. Jeremiah chapter 10. Verse 20 through 25. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 20 through 25. My tent has been ravaged, and all my cords have been broken. My children have gone from me, and they are no more. There is no one to pitch my tent anymore, or to set up curtains. For the shepherds have become brutish, and they have not sought Yahweh. Therefore they did not understand, and all their flocks scattered. See, it has come the voice of a report, and a great shaking out of the land of the north, to make the cities of Yehuda a waste, a habitation of jackals. O Yahweh, I know the way of man is not in himself. Think about what this is saying. I know the way of man is not in himself. It is not for man who walks to direct his own steps. It's not for man to direct his own steps. We have to. That's the thing that the sheep understand. is that if they just make up their own way, that they will be in danger. But at some point, Israel became convinced that we can do it ourselves. So now, we get all super spiritual, right? And every time I want to do something, and everything that pops in my head, the Holy Spirit is guiding me. Or when I don't want to do something, my brother done told me and done showed me scripture after scripture, and I see it right there. Well, the Holy Spirit is not leading me in that direction. It's an excuse. It's an excuse to make up your own way. And right here, Jeremiah 10:23, "Oh Yahweh, I know the way of man is not in himself. It ain't in us. It is not for man who walks to direct his own steps." And in verse 24, "Oh Yahweh, chastise me, but with right ruling, not in your displeasure, lest you bring me to naught." That's the difference between that shepherd bringing back the sheep. That it may be uncomfortable to that sheep to get that hook put around his neck or around his legs or whatever it might be. But he's being brought back into the place of protection. And it's a whole lot easier to get chastised with right ruling than it is to be on the other side where he says that offenses may come, but woe to him by whom the offense comes. Now you're on the other side. And when he judges that nation, it's going to be something to pay. So this scattering is unto life. This weariness is unto life. This time that he has allowed us to be rebellious to him, to walk away from him, when he brings us back, the punishment that we're receiving even now, and it looks bad. Y'all, it looks bad. I'm tired of cutting on the news. I'm tired of looking at Facebook. I'm tired of getting notices of somebody else getting shot, somebody else getting this, that. I'm tired of trying to explain to people what racism looks like in this country. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Had a conversation with somebody just the other day, and the thing that I had to tell him was, look, there are things that you will never have to tell your son.
Right.
That I have to have those conversations now. His life depends upon it.
That's right. That's right.
His life.
Right.
Not his freedom of expression.
See, thank you. Thank you.
Not his individuality.
That's right. Come on now.
His life
That's right.
depends on it.
That's right.
And so we always learn the lesson. And that's what I say, learn the lesson. Because when you learn the lesson, it's to life and not into death. We don't learn the lesson, we're going to end up dead, y'all. We're going to wake up dead. We got to keep fighting. Verse 25. Pour out your wrath on the nations who do not know you, and on the tribes who do not call on your name. For they have eaten up Yaakov, devoured him, and consumed him, and laid waste his home. These are the things that we have to deal with. The nations that come against Yahweh. I've got one more scripture. Understand this is what Yahweh is doing. This is what Yahshua was doing when he was there, when he was walking the earth. This is what he was doing. Go to Jeremiah chapter 50. And we're going to read starting at, let me make sure that's my PowerPoint is gone, so I'm going to make sure that's what I was actually, yeah. That's it.
50, 40.
What's that?
50 and the 47.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 4 through 7, through verse 7. And it reads, "In those days and at that time, declares Yahweh, the children of Israel shall come, they and the children of Yehudah together, weeping as they come, and seek Yahweh their Elohim. They shall ask the way to Zion, their faces toward it. Come and let us join ourselves to Yahweh in an everlasting covenant never to be forgotten." Same thing we read in Ezekiel, right? "My people have been wandering sheep. Their shepherds have led them astray, turning them away on the mountains. They have gone from mountain to hill." See? "They have forgotten their resting place." What's that resting place? What's that resting place? He says, if you should enter into my rest. It's that sheepfold. Because now you're in the place of protection, right? You've got the guard at the door. That's sheepfold. Verse 7, "All who found them have devoured them, and their adversaries," please pay attention to this. Pay attention to this, because this is history. This is history. Verse 7, "All who found them had devoured them, and their adversaries have said, we are not guilty, because they have sinned against Yahweh. The home of righteousness, Yahweh." This is history. This is history. Mr. CC said documented. This is documented history. That people say, oh, we can do that to them because they're a cursed people. So there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. There's nothing wrong with the way we treat them. Oh, honey, don't cry because I'm maiming your friend's mother or your friend's father right in front of your eyes. Get used to seeing this. They don't have souls, so there's nothing wrong with what we're doing, baby. So you don't really have to have emotions and feelings for them. This is what would happen. There's nothing wrong with coming against this people because they're a cursed people. You know, they get real smart with it. We're just doing God's work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. But we fast forward back to where we began in Matthew 9, where the compassion of our Messiah, the Good Shepherd, goes out for his people. And that when he fights for his people, when he says, who is this coming from the north, who is his raiment covered in blood? The blood of the nations. He says, it is me, I have trodden them down in my fury. And so we know that we have that good shepherd who will avenge his people and protect and regather. And it says, from every place where I have scattered you, I will regather you. Amen.
I've been captured by a love I can't explain. Now you have me, and I'm forever changed.